Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. And for today's video, I'm stepping back into the kitchen to give you guys a little quick demo. Now, I hope you guys have kind of enjoyed our return to car content with the last few videos. As I mentioned, the weather is finally starting to be nice and cooperate where I live here in Canada. So I'm going to be having more car stuff down the line. But as I've mentioned before, I always wanted to keep the cooking videos going as well. And so today, like I just said, I'm back in the kitchen and I'm going to be giving you guys a kind of a quick tutorial on how to make tomato sauce. And what's good about this one is that I'm just going to be using things that honestly I had everything in my house already, didn't have to go out and buy anything. So it's kind of stuff that you probably already have laying around at home, or if you don't, you can go to the grocery store. You don't have to spend a crazy amount of money to also get a good product out of it. So in a second here, I'll show you all the products because it's actually not that much, and then I'll show you the process. Okay guys, so as I mentioned, in the spirit of just kind of using things from around your house, of course I'm making tomato sauce. So I have my tomatoes here. You can see I have a can of diced tomatoes, I have a jar of just some kind of crushed and strained tomatoes, and I have some tomatoes what kind of looks like goop for now in a bowl. It's just some tomatoes that I had laying around. The sauce there, some extra sauce. I had tacos for dinner the other night, so I made salsa. But yeah, all you're gonna need is tomatoes. Again, any kind of form like this. I'm guessing most typically people would have either a jar like this or a can of diced tomatoes. Beside that, I have some garlic in a pot with some olive oil. I'll tell you what that's all about in a second. And then we have some herbs here. So I have bay leaves, basil, oregano, parsley, a little bit of sugar, and then salt and pepper. And really guys, that's all that you need to make a basic tomato sauce. Okay everyone, so you're probably wondering, why do I have some garlic in a pan and just some olive oil? Well, this is basically for two reasons. One, we're gonna cover the garlic with the oil, we're gonna cook it, and then we're gonna use the actual garlic cloves in our tomato sauce. And then secondary, we can also take that strained off garlic oil and use it for other things down the line, whether we put some actually into our tomato sauce or into pasta or other dishes that you're cooking down the line that call for some olive oil, but you kind of want to jazz it up a little bit. So all you got to do is just kind of lightly cover the garlic. Now, my pan here is a little bit bigger than what I actually need, but all you want to do is just take the olive oil, cover the garlic so that it's just barely covered. You don't want an insane amount. And then we're just going to turn it on a high heat to start, and then give it down to a low simmer. And basically all we're trying to do is cook the garlic until it's soft. And then yeah, at that point we can strain it out. Again, add the garlic to your tomato sauce and keep the oil aside for use down the line. So garlic's on, it's going to cook. And then now we can go ahead and actually start to build our tomato sauce. So go ahead and grab all your tomato, whatever you have you're using, and throw it into the pot. He says as he struggles with the jar. Alright, dump it all in there. Alright, and then once everything's in your pot, just go ahead, grab a spoon, stir it all together, especially if you're using 3 different kinds of tomato like I am here. You want to make sure that you stir them together, make sure they start to get combined. And then again, we want to put our heat on. We want to put our heat on high to start, and then once it starts to come to a boil, we're going to reduce it down and just let the tomato sauce cook. Alright, just to go back over to the garlic for a second, you can see within about a minute of me turning on high, oil came up to a boil. It still has a lot of bubbles on it, but my heat's on the lowest setting, and I'm just going to let this ride out again for about 20 minutes. You can periodically check it, and if your garlic is starting to be a little bit soft, then you can go ahead and take it out. But you want it to be soft pretty much to the point where you can just easily squish it with your fingers, and then it's done. So as I mentioned guys, put everything into your pan here, give it a quick stir around, and then we're going to have the heat up on high to start, let it come to a boil, and then we're going to reduce it down and let it cook. But also at this point, once you have it, once you're starting out, you can go ahead and we can start to put seasoning in. So we can go with some salt and pepper, and pretty much you can put all your herbs in here as an initial. Of course, as it cooks, you want to obviously keep tasting it and make sure it doesn't need more of something. But go ahead and at least start out, get a little bit of all your herbs and spices in there. Now another thing to note, I'm using all dry herbs right now. Of course, if you guys have fresh herbs at home, you can use that, but playing off the theme again of using what you have at home. I don't currently have fresh herbs in stock. I have dry ones, so I'm using those. And that's a good thing with tomato sauce is you can interchange things all the time. And you know, I'm using herbs that are pretty basic, but say if you don't like oregano, don't put oregano in. If you really like oregano, put more oregano in than you have basil. All right, I'm going in with some oregano, going with some basil as well. And you'll probably notice I'm not giving you guys any kind of exact measurements. Again, the one thing with tomato sauce is, you know, I can give you guys a recipe. You can go look at 10 other places and find a recipe, and I guarantee you that the methods aren't going to be the same, the measurements aren't going to be the same. So it's just one of those things that, as I mentioned, you know, you kind of want to season as you go along and make sure it tastes the way that you guys are happy with. And I always like to stick a bay leaf into kind of anything that I'm going to be slow cooking. Because, well, with the dry ones especially, they'll hold up to the cooking, and they kind of slow cook in whatever you are to release all the flavor. Just always make sure whenever you do take something off that you always take the bay leaf out, because they're not really fun to eat. And then just go ahead, stir that all in. I've already turned my heat down to medium. You guys might have seen it started to come to a bubble, but just in case you didn't, so yeah, you guys can see there it's starting to kind of bubble up. I'm going to turn it down before it hits up right in the camera, but yeah, you want it to come to a bubble like that and then turn it down, and pretty much you can, at this point, you can kind of walk away and leave it. Again, your garlic is still going to be going, that's going to go for about 20 minutes, and then once the 20 minutes is up on the garlic, you want to strain it out somehow. Now for my purposes, I'm just going to use a metal slotted spoon here, because again, I want to take the garlic out, put it in my tomato sauce, but then I want to cool off the actual oil to use it for other things down the road. Alright guys, so about 20 minutes later, you can see here the garlic is pretty much cooked the way we want it to be. You can see it's starting to get kind of a nice brown color on it, which is what we want. And I'm not going to obviously stick my finger in the hot oil, but if I kind of press it up against the edge, I can feel it starting to squish a little bit, which again is what we want. So just go ahead, grab your slotted spoon. Of course, if you don't have a slotted spoon, if you have a proper like wire strainer, go ahead and strain everything through that. Just make sure you obviously keep the oil aside, but for my case, I'm just going to use my spoon here. I'm just going to fish out all the cloves of garlic, throw them right over into the tomato sauce, and let them continue to cook in there. And again, the garlic flavor is obviously going to flavor the tomato sauce. And once again, and then we have now some nice garlic oil that we can use for other things. Alright, so again, once your garlic is in, give your tomato sauce a nice stir so that the garlic kind of spreads out. Continues to cook. And at this point, I realized I also before forgot to add in the sugar. So I'm going to put in the sugar. It's about, add a little bit over a teaspoon of sugar in here. And all that's going to do is the kind of the sweetness of the sugar is going to help to cut through some of the acidity of the tomatoes. And you know, it's not going to really give it a sweet flavor too much because we're not putting that much in. But again, that little bit of sugar is going to help cut down the acid in the tomatoes and kind of just help to pull out the flavor of almost everything that's in your sauce. So again, once your garlic is in there, again, give it a stir up, and then turn your heat down to a low heat at this point, and just kind of let the tomato sauce simmer and do its thing. Again, stir it every once in a while, you know, make sure it's not going down too low and gonna burn. But other than that, yeah, at this point, you can essentially walk away and let your tomato sauce cook. Okay guys, so about, well, an hour later, it's more than an hour later, but after about an hour of letting your tomato sauce cook, kind of reduce down a little bit, what I like to do is then go ahead and blend it. Now, you can choose not to blend it if you like a more kind of chunky tomato sauce, but just remember, the only reason I'm really blending it is because I still have some chunks of the garlic. They didn't quite all cook out, and just, you know, it's a little kind of still chunky in some places, and blending it also helps to have all the flavors and herbs and everything kind of all really mixed in together. So if we bring the camera over, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use my stick blender here that I have, but you know, some of you at home might not have this, so you can go ahead, you just have like a regular blender that, you know, you would make smoothies or something, and you can put the sauce in there. Just make sure before you put it in the plastic that it's cooled down, otherwise you risk, you know, it being too hot, maybe the plastic cracking. So yeah, again, if you don't have a stick blender, you can still blend it up, or as I mentioned, you can keep it like this. But with the stick blender, I'm just going to go in there, make sure that it's fully submerged. And I have two settings here. I'm going to go on the highest setting and then just straight up, just kind of work it around, make sure everything gets blended up. You're going to see right away that, of course, everything starts to change, everything becomes a little smoother. And then essentially that's all you want to do. Now again, with the blending, you can go as kind of smooth as you like, or if you just give it a couple quick blends, just kind of break everything down, you can still have it kind of chunky. The preference is really up to you guys. I like a little bit of a smoother tomato sauce, so I'm gonna just off camera, I'm gonna blend this until it's the kind of smooth and the consistency I want. But there you go. That's essentially what you do after your almost hour of cooking. Now, of course, I've only had it for an hour because, again, in the spirit of trying to keep this a kind of quick recipe, it's something you can do anytime at home. But of course, as with anything in cooking, the more you cook something, the better flavors it is going to have in it. And at this point as well, if you are going to blend it, this is another time where you can kind of taste and add in some extra salt, pepper, herbs, whatever you think your sauce needs to be tasting the way that you want it. Okay guys, so as I said off camera, I finished blending it, and now you can see how the consistency and even the color has changed. Now that everything is all blended together. As I mentioned, I like a smoother tomato sauce, so there's not really any chunks in this, and the kind of nice thing is you can kind of still see the little flecks in there of the dry herbs we put in, which of course are all cooked now, so they're not going to be kind of hard and sticking to your teeth or anything like that. And then yeah, that's pretty much your tomato sauce. Then of course you can go ahead and you can throw it on pasta, pretty much whatever you want to use tomato sauce for, you can go ahead and do it. So there we go, everyone. That's kind of my quick tutorial on how to make tomato sauce. Again, as I mentioned in the beginning, this is just the way I like to do it. Maybe teach you guys something, kind of even the basics. And let me know down in the comments if you guys have any other ways of making tomato sauce. Again, as I mentioned, you can probably talk to 5 different people who work in kitchens, and you're gonna get 5 different ways of making tomato sauce. So yeah, again, that's kind of my way. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys learned a little bit of something. If you enjoyed it, as always, please give it a big thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel to see more content, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.